Hey guys, it's Madison, and this is going to be roughly a week-ish of my life of me trying to squeeze in some language learning on a very busy week. So like I mentioned before in many of my videos, I have been really into swing dancing lately and kind of getting more and more into it by the week, it feels like. Last week and this week especially have been really busy for me. Like for example, this week I'm going to be dancing Monday, Wednesday, which is today, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, like all day long. So a very swing dancing filled week for me for sure. And the past few months, I've really gotten in the habit of when I am on the subway or bus on the way to these swing dancing events, I mostly just listen to music on the way. I just kind of put in headphones and then just vibe for the hour or 2 or 3 hours that I'm on the subway on any given day. And some days I do need that time to kind of just tune out the world and relax for a little while when I am, mentally exhausted or whatever. But definitely some days I could, put a little bit of mental energy towards language learning during that time where I'm just sitting stuck on the subway, traveling from one location to another. So I'm going to try this week, especially in the subway time, so at least put a little bit of mental energy towards language learning on all of these little public transportation parts of my schedule. So starting with today, actually, I'm about to go out the door to a swing dancing social dance thing. And so I'll probably have around an hour and a half total on public transportation there and back. And so I'm hopefully going to spend at least a little bit of that time on something languagey. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do, but probably either do Chinese, yomi yomi, or finding a new webtoon to start something, or a few of those things hopefully will get done today. So yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to be able to record tonight of me, learning stuff on the subway because I hate filming in public, but I shall report back either at the end of the night or tomorrow at some point with what I did manage to accomplish and how much of my journey I did manage to spend on languages. All right, time for a very, very brief update because I'm currently running late for an important event, which I'll look into in a second. But yeah, Wednesday it was successful mildly. I did manage to do a bit of flashcard review on Do Chinese, so that is good. Yesterday, Thursday, it was basically the exact same schedule as Wednesday. I didn't really have a chance to film and talk to the camera, but yeah, basically copy and paste from Wednesday, except instead of Do Chinese, I was busy catching up on text because like I mentioned previously, the group chats that I'm currently in for my swing dancing groups are the most active group chats ever. And the class I was going to yesterday, the group chats were popping off with lots of plans for that evening. And so I was basically spending the entire subway ride there, reading those chats and also texting a bit myself as well. And so didn't have a chance to do any sort of study yesterday. But in return, after the class, there was a very long after party, 2.5 hours that I stayed for, and then it continued on after that. But because of that, I spent several hours just sitting there conversing straight in Korean with a bunch of my classmates, which was good because I didn't really know these classmates before, and so it was a bit awkward because they all knew each other, and I kind of joined in this class full of strangers that already all knew each other, and I felt like the odd one out, not only because I looked different, because I was the one who didn't know anybody. And so finally, because of this kind of after party, just eating and dancing together some more, I had the chance to actually chat one-on-one with a couple people and get to know them much better than I did previously. So hopefully in the future, it won't be quite so awkward to go there and I won't feel like I am the kind of lone one out anymore. But that was yesterday. There's also a kind of Chinese tangent there. Remind me later in the video to talk about the Chinese situation, but that was basically yesterday. Couldn't study on the way back because I was taking a taxi, and if I even tried to open my phone, I would totally get carsick and vomit. So didn't even attempt that. But today has been a pretty good day. I was able to sleep in because I don't teach today on Friday. I had kind of a lazy morning, and then I spent the last few hours editing the video that will hopefully come out later this weekend if I continue to be on schedule. It was supposed to come out last weekend actually, and then I just did not come anywhere close to finishing it, but hopefully it'll come out this weekend. And then tonight I should say, is a performance that I'm going to be in. I am on a team, a swing dancing team basically, and we're putting on a party, so a DJ set of social dancing and also some performances as well. And I'm going to be doing 2 routines as part of those performances with a group, not just me alone, because that's terrifying. It's terrifying enough doing the group performance, but yeah. I need to go ahead and get out the door now to head to Seoul to warm up and practice my routines before the party starts. So yeah, that is the plan for today. Again, I have about an hour and a half trip to Seoul and then also back from Seoul another hour and a half. Then on the way there, I'm probably not going to even try to do language learning because I'm anxious about the performance. So I'm just going to be watching the video of the routine and mentally going through it 8 billion times so that I can try to ease my anxiety and kind of make sure I have everything memorized. But on the way back, hopefully, I will have the chance to kind of decompress from the stress and fun, hopefully, of the evening by maybe reading a webtoon. I haven't read a webtoon in a week or so, more than that, in like a few weeks. So I want to start reading webtoons again. So that's the plan for tonight. And now I'm going to head out the door and head to Seoul and hopefully crush my routines. All right, so it is now a full week later. It's Friday once again. As you can probably tell, I did a terrible job at vlogging this past week because I filmed nothing, but thankfully I didn't do nothing. So I did, incorporate language learning almost daily for the past week. I will discuss it in a moment, but first I want to rewind back to last Thursday. I mentioned that there was a Chinese situation of sorts, and basically one of my classmates in the Thursday class that I take, it's like a routine class, a routine dance class. And one of my classmates there is Chinese. And the way I found out was a little bit embarrassing because I was, like I mentioned, after the class, there was an after party. I was staying there for a couple hours chatting. And a guy came over to our side of the table where me and a couple other girls were chatting, and they were having like a fun, playful conversation. And one of the girls said to him like, oh, well, you're Chinese, so blah, 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 blah. And I thought they were joking, and in hindsight, I don't know why I thought that. I think it's because in my classroom, a lot of times my students will joke about being Chinese when I get onto them for speaking Korean. They're like, well, I'm actually Chinese, let me speak Chinese. Or I'm actually Japanese, and so let me speak Japanese. And they'll say 3 words that they know in that other language, and then I'll respond to them and be like, oh, really, in Chinese or Japanese. And, it's kind of like a running joke that we have, I guess. And then also when I was in high school, I had a group of Korean friends, and they would always tease one of those Korean friends for being Chinese because she had kind of Chinese features, I guess. And so it was like a running joke of sorts in high school as well. And so for some reason I was like, oh, this is obviously a joke too. And so when they said to him like, oh, well, you're Chinese, blah, 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 I was like, oh, really, in Chinese? And then he responded in Chinese, and I was like totally caught off guard. And he said to me, I had to ask him to repeat it because I was not ready for a Chinese response. My students don't respond when I say it. And so he said like, oh, where'd you study Chinese? And I was like, oh, in high school I studied Chinese and in college. And then I asked him, where did you learn Chinese? And he's like, I am Chinese. And I was like, oh, you guys weren't joking. And they were like, no. So that was a little bit embarrassing because number one, I assumed they were joking. And number two, the fact that I just blurted out Chinese at this Chinese person who can actually judge my Chinese was a little bit embarrassing in hindsight, especially since I could not, I was so caught off guard. I had to ask him to repeat himself. I could not express my follow-up response very clearly because I was surprised that I had to actually respond again in Chinese. I was not mentally ready to have a conversation when I was already, it was midnight at this point, and I'd already been speaking in Korean for 2 hours. And so I was not in a good mental state to suddenly burst out Chinese conversation when I don't do it almost ever anyways. So anyway, that being said, that's kind of a fun thing to know. And, I did try again when we were leaving. He and I left at the same time. And so I asked him oh, did you come in your car? And he was like, no. And then he asked me, and then I didn't know how to say, call a taxi. I don't know the word for taxi. Anyway, obviously I was tired and overwhelmed, but I am going to occasionally try to pop out a few little Chinese phrases with him at times. But yeah, the wild thing is I didn't even realize before, I've talked to this guy, not deeply, but in passing, I've said things before, and he interacts with people so naturally. He's so fluent. Now that I know he's Chinese, I do hear the slightest of Chinese inflections in his voice, but definitely more fluent and more fluid in his Korean speech than I am for sure. So kind of low-key jealous of him and his speaking abilities. No one could ever overhear me in a deep conversation and think, oh, she's definitely Korean, because I definitely pause still when I'm having conversations trying to recall words. I'm fluent, but I'm not like a native when I speak. But he is pretty darn natural in his interactions, at least from what I've seen. So yeah, now I have a Chinese buddy in a class, and so maybe if I am brave again in the future, I can occasionally practice a little bit here and there of Chinese with him. He did compliment my pronunciation, so at least there's that, even though I definitely did not have the most fluid of sentences when I was talking to him. So maybe I can, again, be brave again in the future, but we shall see. The next day, like I said, was the performance day where I had two kind of group routines that I was performing at my dance team's kind of annual party. Yeah, as suspected, I did not study a single bit of anything on the subway to Seoul because I was a little bit too hyped up and anxious and nervous about the event. But the performances went okay, not amazing, not terrible. Honestly, I was mostly glad that they were over and it was a good experience, but I had mentioned that I might try to read a webtoon on the way back from Seoul. That did not happen either because some of my teammates posted the videos of our routines in the group chat, and so I ended up just watching those over and over again for the whole ride home and overanalyzing everything about the routines. It was also kind of a slap of reality of like how I think I look when I dance versus how I actually look when I dance is two totally different realities, unfortunately. So I had to kind of come to grips with that sad fact while watching the videos on the way home on loop. But yeah, that was my Friday night, and because of, again, being with my Korean teammates, I did also speak a decent amount at the event as well. And then Saturday morning rolled around all too soon after going to bed late the previous night because of the party, and I ended up skipping my morning team practice. Well, I say morning, but it's actually from 12 to 3. I have to leave in the morning to get to Seoul on time for that team practice. This is the same team that we had the party the night before, and I ended up skipping that for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because I was just really tired because, like I mentioned, I had a lot of dancing this week. I had a lot of going back and forth everywhere this past week, and so it was nice to kind of have a morning where I didn't have to get up for work or for some swing thing, and so I ended up just skipping it, sleeping a bit longer, and having a lazy morning instead of a very, very busy day because I also have swing class in the afternoon in a different place as well. So normally my Saturday schedule is really, really packed. I leave at like 9:30 or 10:30, go to Seoul, swing dance for 3 or 4 hours, go to a different location like an hour away, have a 2-hour class, then go to the social dance for like 2 hours. And so my Saturdays are like literally from like 10 in the morning until like 11 or 12 at night. And so it's super, super busy. And so it was nice to have not quite as packed of a day. And reason number 2 is because I was feeling, again, kind of depressed about how I actually look while dancing. And something about it being like that team, like the same team that I was practicing with as this team that I had performed with the night before. I just, for some reason, I felt like too embarrassed to go, even though they've seen me dance. Like, this is how I dance all the time. And so I don't know why I felt embarrassed, but I think because also they're all so freaking good at dancing. I'm like the loser in the room kind of, and I'm there to learn and get better, but like something about realizing just how different my level is from some of theirs. I was like, I just don't want to show my face to theirs, even though it's like only in my head is this issue, but I just felt kind of embarrassed and bad about myself. And I was also, again, so physically tired and exhausted from the week, and I was like, let's just take today off. So did not go that morning, but again, I did go to the other swing things I had that day. So it was still a pretty busy day, despite skipping the 3-hour team practice in Seoul in the morning. So that was my Saturday. A busy day still, but not nearly as busy as it would have been otherwise. And then on the way home from swing on Saturday, I did end up starting a new webtoon finally. And so that kind of became my routine for the rest of the week through now, basically, reading that webtoon on the subway to and from swing. The name, I believe, is 상사 불상사, which is like your work elder, your boss. Boss and non-boss, I guess, is a rough translation. And it has been pretty good so far. I read a decent number of episodes that first night, and then Sunday, originally I had planned to finally finish editing that video that I'd hoped to go out the previous weekend, but once again, did not touch it on Sunday, so I did not post it, unfortunately. 2 weeks in a row that I failed to post. I'm really wanting to get more consistent, but I keep taking Sundays off, which is my day off of the week anyway, and so it's the best day for editing, but if I don't edit, then there's no video. So yeah, that Sunday I was just still feeling a bit kind of just mentally and physically exhausted from the week, and so I just totally took the day off, spent the whole day lounging in PJs. I read a ton of that webtoon again that day, like basically maybe even 4 or 5 hours in the afternoon, just lounging in bed, reading. It was a great, just really enjoyable, lazy Sunday, which I don't really regret, even though, again, I do wish I had put a video up last weekend. I did really enjoy that lazy Sunday after the busy week. So yeah, this week has been not the best week in terms of like getting enough sleep or like accomplishing little daily life tasks like around my house or at work and stuff. Like I feel like I've been behind on sleep, behind on all those tasks all week, at least kind of my own personal goals that I had for myself on each day. Even my skin was kind of trash this week. It's just everything was not great this past week. But in terms of language learning, I did continue to have classes. I had kind of a casual practice with some classmates on Monday for swing dancing, and on the way there and back, I again read more webtoon episodes for the same webtoon. Tuesday there was no dancing, and so instead I started a new drama called Law and the City, I think, in English, and that's been pretty good so far. I watched, I think, the first 5 episodes in the afternoon. Probably should have been doing the grading and decluttering that I'd hoped to get done, but again, I was sleep deprived and did not have the energy to work on those things, and so instead I just watched a few episodes of that. Wednesday and Thursday, once again, I had swing dancing stuff in the evenings, and so read webtoon episodes on the way to and from those things as well. And I'm almost completely caught up today on Friday with all the episodes that are currently available. I think I've read like 60 something, and there's like 72 or 3 or something like that available. And so I'm coming up on the last, I think, like 4 or 5 that are available to read. So yeah, that is the full catch up from last week where I left you and today. When I first started this vlog, I had the idea that I would be able to do different language learning things on the subway trips that I was taking, and also on the days off, film a little bit of me doing language stuff around the house here, but that didn't really end up happening. I only did really one thing on the subway. Well, I guess the first day I did do that, do Chinese vocab review. So there was 2 things I did on the subway over the past, 10 days. But yeah, there ended up not being a ton of variety or a ton to discuss in terms of the language stuff I was doing this week, just because it was so repetitive every single day. But honestly, that's fine for my language learning itself. You know, I'm getting a lot of Korean speaking in, I'm getting a lot of Korean webtoon reading in, the tiniest little sprinkle of Chinese surprise speaking as well. And so even though I wasn't very successful in capturing an interesting week of my life, I do feel happy with what I did manage to accomplish. There were some downs as well. Like I said, I spent Saturday and Sunday kind of feeling not super great about my dancing abilities, I guess. Like, it's crazy because it's actually very similar to language learning, I will say. Just kind of tie it back in. I know I'm talking so much about dancing and some of you guys are like, I don't care. But it does have a lot of overlapping vibes with language learning as well, because it's the same thing where the better you get, the more you realize how incapable you still are. I still feel that way in Korean. I've been doing this for now almost 15 years, learning Korean, and I'm really good at Korean. I'm definitely an advanced Korean learner and speaker, but still I feel so incapable some days, and I'm not satisfied with where I am currently. There's still so many gaps in my abilities, and I can't, speak effortlessly about lots of topics like I can in English, and certain things will come up where I can't describe them how I want to, and it's frustrating. And it's the better I get, the more frustrated I get with the gaps that still exist. And I'm definitely not anywhere near as good in my dancing abilities as I am in my Korean speaking abilities, but still, it's I've come so far in the past year. A year ago, when I first got back into it, I couldn't do any 8 count moves. I only did 6 count. I've learned swing out, which is the key swing dancing move or Lindy Hop move. My musicality is still very weak, but I've definitely grown from where I was, and I've come so far in the past year, and yet seeing that one video of my performance just really was a slap of reality, and I was like, wow, I'm so far from the really cool dancers that I see on the dance floor sometimes, and I want to be them, and I want to have that good of musicality and just have that ease of expression on the dance floor, just like I want to have that ease of expression in Korean. And the more I do improve slowly day by day, the more I'm like, wow, I still have so far to go in dancing as well. And so yeah, there were some downs this past week and some little bouts of self-dissatisfaction or just wishing I was better than I am. I guess. And so I'm over it now. I've, or at least partially, like I have been able to already make some small corrections in how I dance after seeing the video. So like already it's been helpful and beneficial and has helped me progress even way beyond where I was last week into this week. And so, you know, there are positives to it as well, but you know, it's just whenever you come face to face with the fact of how far there is still left to go, whether in dancing or in language learning, it is a bit daunting sometimes. But I am still very passionate about both things, about improving my dancing skills and about improving my language skills. And so hopefully with each new week, I can progress further and get better than I was the day before. And so, yeah, with that little strangely inspirational ending, I guess I will end this vlog probably here, at least the speaking part. Tonight I am hoping to finish up reading all of the available webtoon episodes for that webtoon before I go to bed, and maybe watch the last available episode of the drama that I'm watching as well while in the city. And so hopefully I'll film a few little bits of that, since I didn't really film much else in this very busy week of mine. But aside from that, which I'll tack on here at the end of the video, I hope you guys have an amazing week for your language learning. I will see you guys in the next video, which hopefully will be edited and posted in a very timely manner, unlike the past few. And until then, annyeong.